Hey there drone fans, Rick here again from Drone Valley. Today I'd like to discuss another great way for you to capture some amazing content with your Mavic Pro through panoramic pictures. Now if you've never created a panoramic image before, essentially what you're doing is taking a series of photographs that are just slightly offset from each other of a particular scene, and then sewing those together through specialized software called a stitching program that'll perfectly overlay those photos and make it a seamless image that's much wider than you can get with a standard camera. Now, to do this well, you've got to have a constant focal length, which means when you put the Mavic up in the air and you hit that center focus button, the Mavic is perfectly suited to maintain that focus through that series of pictures, which is going to give you spectacular results. The other thing that's super important is that that perspective stay the same. And because the Mavic uses GPS and it uses height hold to maintain its position in the air from a horizontal perspective, it's going to give you exactly the same perspective on all the pictures you take. Now I do this an awful lot with the Mavic, especially if I'm out in a particularly beautiful area. Maybe it's a sunset over the bay, or I'm over the woods and I've got this wide expanse of trees and I want to capture as much of it as I can. I love putting this thing up, taking that series of 10 or 12 photos and then bringing them home and stitching them together. It just gives you stunning results. It's breathtaking what it can accomplish. Now the other cool thing about this is that even though you can create a panoramic image from landscape mode pictures or horizontally oriented pictures, it's much better if you use portrait pictures or vertically oriented pictures, because in a landscape picture there's a lot of information above it and below it that you're missing, and even though you can stitch them together you get this wide band that's really thin. Having a portrait mode or vertically oriented picture gives you a much deeper picture this way and a much wider picture that way when they're stitched together, so it's a much better result. What's unique about the Mavic, which is kind of a hidden feature on it, is that you have the ability through software to turn the camera from a horizontal position to a vertical position. So you can actually flip it up in the vertical position, take the 10, 12, 15 pictures, and then put it back down in horizontal position to take every other video you need or other pictures you want. So it's very easy to do. Don't be intimidated by it. What I'm going to do in this clip is show you the three-step process you have to go through. I'll show you how to change the camera from a horizontal position to a vertical position. Very easy to do. I'll show you how to take the pictures. And basically when you're taking those pictures, keep in mind that you want to have about a 25% overlap between the shots. You don't want to try and marry them up exactly at the edge because you'll miss information. So you want to try and do it every 25% of the picture should overlap with the next picture going forward. The other thing you want to make sure is that you center focus that camera before you start. That way it'll maintain the same focal length through all the pictures. The third thing is I'll show you a couple of different sources of where you can go for free or low-cost stitching software that'll put this together. I'll actually provide a link below in the comments that'll take you to a page on our website where you can import your pictures, you can stitch them together, and you can save that as a wide panoramic picture to your desktop or your hard drive. So we're doing that just as a courtesy for you guys. But there's a lot of programs out there. If you have any decent photo editing software today, you probably can do panoramic stitching through that software. But I thought I'd give you an easy way to do it. So anyway, I'm going to go through those three steps for you now. And as always, if you have any questions, drop them below. But hang on and I'll get started. The first thing you want to do is to change the orientation from landscape to portrait, which is really easy to do through the DJI Go application. So go through your normal pre-flight checklist, power up your Mavic, make sure your controller connects, make sure there are no warnings on your screen, and once you have a visual image through your camera, all you have to do at that point is touch the screen on the right-hand side and drag it across to the left, and a menu will pop up, a shortcut menu. On the left is the portrait landscape button. Just tap that and you can see that it'll actually flip into the portrait mode. You'll see it's taken a second too to settle in there, because once that camera flips, it's got to find its center point, then it'll do an autofocus. You have to give it a couple of seconds to do that. To flip back to landscape mode, just reverse the procedure. Pull it across again, tap that button and it'll go back to the landscape mode. Again, you can see that it's settling in there a little bit before it actually does the autofocus. If you want to go back again to portrait, same thing, just slide it across on the left-hand side, tap that button one more time, and it'll go back into portrait mode. It couldn't have been simpler. I wanted to give you a look at the camera when it's actually making this change. So right now it's in landscape mode or horizontal orientation. Watch it closely and you'll see it flip up to vertical orientation. Now once it flips up in a vertical orientation, it just did it there. You can see that it takes a second for it to actually adjust. Now it's flipped back down to horizontal. Now it's flipped back up to vertical or portrait mode. So you can actually see the camera shifting 90 degrees. And once it shifts, it does take a second or two for the camera to find its home point and do the autofocus. So you've got to be aware of that and give it a couple of seconds to stabilize. Now that you've changed the orientation from landscape to portrait, it's time to put your Mavic up in the air and capture the images you'll need for the final picture. The way I like to do this is to put the Mavic up to about 200 feet, so I've got a good perspective of the area I want to photograph. Try to pick a center point in the interesting part of the photograph, knowing that I've got to take 6 pictures to the left typically and 6 pictures to the right. I'll then swing the Mavic all the way to the leftmost extent. Before I take that picture, I'll hit the center focus, then I won't touch it again. And knowing that the Mavic is going to maintain its height and vertical position, I won't have to worry about that focus varying as I swing across the arc of pictures I'm going to take. I'll take the first picture, slide it slightly to the right, take another picture, slightly again, another picture. And what I try to do is overlap those pictures by about 25 to 40% or 25 to 50%. So I've got plenty of overlap. So when I put it into the stitching software, it's got the best chance of finding the perfect match of those images. Once I capture all 20 of those images, I'll land the Mavic, I'll transfer those to my laptop, and then I'll do the stitching process, which I'll cover next. The final step involves combining all the images you took into one larger panoramic picture, and there's a bunch of ways you can do this. A lot of the better graphic editing programs have this function built in. We put together a link in the description below that'll take you to a page on our website that'll allow you to do it for free. And when you go to that page, you can either do it as a wide angle picture, which is the way I normally create my panoramic pictures, or you can do it as a 360-degree view. If you click that wide angle button, what it's going to do is present you with an open dialog box where you can pick all the images. So pick the first image you took, pick the last image you took, open them together. The program will analyze those and create a nice large image for you that you can pan across. So once this is done, it'll pop up an image of all those photos stitched together, and then you can drag your mouse across it and you can actually view which portion of it you want to print out. Now if you notice on the bottom there's a slide bar. If you slide that bar to the right, you'll see 2 icons up top. The arrows allow you to expand it to a full screen, and that's a stunning picture of that area. I couldn't possibly capture that with a regular camera. But spin it around, get a look, enjoy the photograph, and then decide what the best picture out of that wide picture is that you want to save to your hard drive. Once you hit the escape key, it'll take you back to the main menu. Hit the options button, and then you can save as a large image to your local drive. That'll take a second to do that. You tell it where you want it to save, and it'll save it there. Now if you cancel that, if you want to redo the image or you want to do another one, just hit the restart button through the options menu. Hit the options menu and hit restart. It'll allow you to go back in and choose a different set of images. But that's a quick way for you to create that panoramic image and save it to your hard drive. Okay, that's it for this clip. I hope you found that helpful. I really enjoy taking those panoramic pictures, especially if I'm in a particularly beautiful area where it's got a wide sweeping vista that I want to capture. I'm always disappointed when I take a picture of a specific spot. I know that I'm only getting a little chunk of what I'm seeing through the camera. So being able to sort of swing that camera slowly across and take a series of pictures, join them together, and then save that later, it's just amazing what the Mavic can do. And this is the perfect tool to do it because, again, the geniuses at DJI that thought through this and said, we're going to let them have both portrait mode and landscape mode in the same quad. Kind of cool stuff, right? So anyway, if you didn't know about this, now you know about it. Another way to use your Mavic to take some great content. If you have any questions about what I've covered, please drop them below. Thumbs up are always good. We love getting feedback from you guys that you're enjoying these clips. I'm trying to find things that are unique or different about the way the Mavic's being used. I know there's a ton of people putting clips out there about basic things with the Mavic. I'm trying to take it a step further and dig into the stuff that I do on a regular basis. So hopefully you find this helpful. Again, I'll continue to make these as long as you guys are finding value in them because I'm having a lot of fun putting them together. So thanks again for watching. We really appreciate your viewership. And as always, happy flying.